Prince Harry has long been considered the rebellious royal. And it seems that reputation is well founded, as private letters written by his mother, Princess Diana, appear to confirm.
The hidden letter that could change everything. A secret Diana shared with Princess Anne. Prince Harry has always been labeled the rebellious royal, and it seems this reputation holds more weight than ever as new revelations from his mother, Princess Diana, come to light. What many didn't know was that Diana had a private, heartfelt message for Princess Anne, a royal relationship once marked by distance and mystery. Two princesses, worlds apart in personality, now connected by a letter that reveals secrets never before shared. Diana, known for her emotional depth, and Anne, always steadfast in her duty, never had a close bond. Yet this letter changes everything. Why did Diana write to Anne? Was it a warning? A heartfelt plea? Or perhaps a royal secret the family never intended to surface? Join us as we unravel the lost letter from Princess Diana to Princess Anne and discover the unexpected truth that's been hidden for over 2 decades. A surprising discovery: Diana's confidential letter to Princess Anne. It was a cold morning in early 2024 in Essex, England, when a long-lost piece of history surfaced in an unlikely place. Inside a grand auction house, auctioneer James Parker's hands shook as he opened an old, dust-covered box. For years, he had handled countless treasures, but nothing prepared him for what lay inside. Among the piles of royal memorabilia were personal letters from the late Princess Diana, notes brimming with gratitude, warmth, and emotion. Yet one envelope stood out, a sealed letter addressed to none other than Princess Anne. This letter had remained a mystery for over 26 years, hidden away in a private collection since Diana's tragic passing in 1997. While many of Diana's letters had been shared with the world, this particular one had never been opened. The envelope was pristine, bearing Diana's royal letterhead, with her signature elegant handwriting still as clear as it was the day she penned it. As the discovery sent shockwaves through the royal world, experts and historians flocked to Essex, eager to lay eyes on this remarkable find. Among them was Dr. Sarah Matthews, a seasoned royal historian who had spent years studying Diana's personal writings. She immediately noticed something curious. This letter, unlike many others, had been kept in perfect condition. Its ink was as vibrant as ever, and the edges were smooth, stark contrast to the often faded, well-handled letters. But what made this letter even more intriguing was its long, mysterious journey. Having passed through 3 owners, it had never been opened. The most recent owner, retired banker Thomas Henderson, had acquired it in 2001 from an anonymous source who had worked closely with the royal family. Its history was shrouded in secrecy, and its significance remained unclear. Further investigation revealed another astonishing detail: a small red wax seal, imprinted with Diana's personal crest. This was not the common royal seal, but one she reserved for the most private and significant messages. What could possibly be inside? The shocking message: what did Diana write to Anne? Inside the envelope was a letter from Diana written in early 1997, just months before her tragic death in Paris. Unlike some of her other letters, which were filled with frustration and sadness, this one stood out as calm, insightful, and deeply reflective. Diana spoke of the inevitable changes she foresaw for the monarchy, changes that at the time seemed impossible but have now become a reality. She predicted the royal family's need to adapt to a rapidly modernizing world, acknowledging the growing influence of the media and the impact it would have on her 2 young sons, William and Harry. Yet the most stunning part of the letter wasn't her predictions about the future. It was her direct request to Princess Anne. Diana, who had always been a bit distant from Anne, expressed deep admiration for her strength, loyalty, and dedication to her royal duties. In an unexpected twist, Diana made a heartfelt plea. If anything were to happen to her, she asked Anne to look after her sons. The timing of this request was especially significant. In 1997, Diana was deeply involved in her humanitarian work, particularly advocating against landmines. Her courageous walk through a live minefield in Angola had already caused tensions with powerful figures, and it seemed Diana knew the dangers surrounding her. Was this letter a silent cry for help? A glimpse into the future. Diana's prescient words: In her letter, Diana displayed an uncanny ability to foresee the challenges the royal family would face. She understood the delicate balance between tradition and modernity, privacy and public duty, issues that are more relevant than ever. Diana had always been ahead of her time, and her letter to Anne proved just how much insight she had into the shifting tides of the monarchy. The British royal family has yet to comment on the letter's discovery, fueling further speculation. However, experts who have examined the letter's handwriting and paper confirm its authenticity, with a perfect match to other known letters from 1997. For now, the letter is carefully preserved at the British Library, where it continues to be studied for its historical significance. But what stands out most is how this discovery reshapes our understanding of Diana's relationship with Princess Anne. The two royals, once thought to be distant, shared a trust and connection in a way that few could have imagined. Diana's final months, as revealed in this long-hidden letter, offer us a glimpse into the mind of a woman who was both ahead of her time and deeply connected to her family. And it changes everything we thought we knew about her. Diana's final words, a warning and a legacy. More than 2 decades later, the monarchy is still grappling with the very issues Princess Diana predicted. Her words, once seen as mere speculation, now carry an undeniable weight. As William and Harry forge separate paths, Diana's final message echoes louder than ever. A plea for change, a warning about the press, and an uncanny foresight into the monarchy's evolving future. But why did Diana find it so crucial to write to Princess Anne? What did she foresee for the royal family and her sons? Let's dive into Diana's final letters, which were filled with chilling insight into her world, and the world she feared might soon change forever. A shift in Diana's writing, a ticking clock. In the spring of 1997, something within Princess Diana shifted, and those closest to her noticed it immediately. Her secretary observed the change. Diana was writing more frequently, and her normally meticulous handwriting now appeared rushed, almost as if she were racing against time. Ken Williams, a former royal protection officer, recalled the unsettling sight of Diana working late into the night, scribbling furiously on pieces of paper. Often he would find her at her desk, surrounded by sealed letters, long past midnight. But these weren't the usual thank you notes or friendly letters. These were serious, weighty writings, full of warnings, secrets, and what seemed like final instructions. The dark forces surrounding her, Diana's chilling letters. One of these letters went to her trusted butler, Paul Burrell, in which Diana alluded to the dark forces that she felt were closing in on her. My name is Paul Burrell. I am the former butler to Princess Diana and Duchess Elizabeth II. Burrell, who had an unparalleled view into the royal household, later revealed the gravity of the situation. Having served both the Queen and Diana, he was a close confidant in those final months. But it wasn't just Burrell who received such cryptic letters. To her close friend Lucia Flecha de Lima, Diana sent a letter warning of powerful figures who wanted her silenced. Despite these ominous signs, there was one letter that stood apart. Her letter to Princess Anne. The letter to Anne, calm, reflective, and almost prophetic. Written on her personal Kensington Palace stationery, Diana's letter to Anne revealed a side of the princess that many didn't know. Calm, reflective, and almost prophetic. Unlike the urgency of her other letters, this one was measured and thoughtful. Diana acknowledged the collapse of royal traditions, predicting that her sons, William and Harry, would need the freedom to forge their own paths. Patrick Jefferson, Diana's private secretary, later explained that she had been watching Princess Anne for years. Despite their differences, Diana admired Anne's ability to remain true to herself while still fulfilling her royal duties. It was clear Diana recognized something in Anne that others often overlooked, a quiet strength and resilience that could guide her sons through the same tumultuous royal life Diana had known all too well. A mother's warnings, Diana's insight into William and Harry's future. Diana's letter wasn't just a personal reflection, it was a warning. She foresaw the immense pressures her sons would face, growing up under the spotlight of the world. The crushing weight of royal expectations, the media's relentless scrutiny, and the unyielding demand for perfection, all of it would become a burden on their shoulders. These weren't just the concerns of a mother, they were the warnings of a woman who had lived through it all. Lady Sarah McCorquodale, Diana's sister, later confirmed that Diana had shared similar concerns with her family. Diana had long believed that change was inevitable within the monarchy, and she feared that both William and Harry would be caught in the middle. But in this letter to Anne, she wasn't asking for protection for her sons, she was asking for understanding. A unique request, Diana's trust in Anne. Diana's request was unlike anything one might expect. She didn't ask Anne for traditional protection or a royal intervention. Instead, Diana asked for Anne's support in a way that showed deep trust for Anne to help guide her sons, to help them navigate royal life while still allowing them to be themselves. It was an unusual plea, but one that made sense given Anne's own independent path within the royal family. In many ways, Anne was the perfect person to offer this guidance, someone who understood the balance between duty and personal authenticity. The price of advocacy, Diana's humanitarian work and its consequences. The letter also delved into Diana's passionate humanitarian work, especially her campaign against landmines. Diana's trips to Angola and Bosnia, where she boldly walked through minefields, became iconic moments in her life, symbols of her commitment to global change. But it also made her a target. By stepping into political issues, Diana had angered powerful figures. Jenny Bond, a former BBC royal correspondent, later recalled the significance of Diana's work in early 1997. Diana, no longer just a princess, had become a force for global change. Yet, with that influence came danger. In her letter to Anne, Diana admitted that she felt she was being watched. Strange cars followed her. Phone calls were often met with eerie silences. But Diana wasn't afraid. Her words conveyed the calm of someone who had already prepared herself for what could come. Diana's final words, a message of hope. Diana's final words to Princess Anne were not filled with fear or regret. Instead, they carried a quiet hope. Hope that the royal family could evolve, hope that her sons could find happiness, and hope that even the most distant relationships could grow stronger. In those final lines, she placed her trust in Anne, not as a royal, but as a mother. She believed that Anne could help protect what mattered most, her boys. At the bottom of the letter, Diana added a short but powerful note. Time will prove me right. Those words, penned in the final months of her life, now seem eerily accurate. Today, as William navigates the tightrope between royal duty and personal freedom, and Harry has chosen to break entirely from tradition, it's clear that Diana saw it all coming. But the relationship between Diana and Anne was far from simple. What caused the rift between these two powerful women? How did a seemingly minor dispute at a royal christening forever alter their dynamic? Let's take a closer look at the royal conflict that simmered beneath the surface. Royal conflict, tradition versus transformation. In the grand halls of Buckingham Palace during the early 1980s, two princesses lived side by side, yet their lives couldn't have been more different. Princess Anne, the Queen's only daughter, had long embraced her role within the royal family. She dedicated herself to the monarchy, attending hundreds of official engagements every year. But, unlike some royal relatives, Anne shied away from the spotlight. Her days were filled with charity work, military events, and important meetings with world leaders. Noble tasks, but not the ones that make headlines. Lady Pamela Hicks, a close family insider, admired Anne's work ethic. She remembered how Anne would rise early, study vital documents, and travel across Britain fulfilling royal duties, yet never expected any praise. For Anne, duty was simply who she was. Then came Diana. The young Princess of Wales brought a fresh wave of warmth and emotion to the royal family. While Anne remained serious, dedicated to tradition, Diana's effortless charm captivated the public. She connected with people in ways no royal had before, breaking protocol by hugging children, shedding tears in public, and showing affection openly. Royal reporter James Milton noted how this sudden shift in tone was a game changer. Suddenly, Anne's quiet dedication, like opening hospitals and visiting schools, seemed to fade into the background. Every new dress or hairstyle Diana wore made the front page. Behind the royal smiles, the tension between the two princesses began to grow. A rift formed, the royal christening dispute. The real strain between Anne and Diana started in 1982 when Prince William was born. According to royal tradition, Anne was expected to be William's godmother. After all, Prince Charles had been chosen as the godfather to Anne's son, Peter. This should have been a symbolic act of trust, solidifying the family bond. But Diana had different plans. Diana broke from tradition, choosing friends who had shown her personal kindness instead of automatically picking a senior royal. This decision shocked the family, particularly Anne, who took it as a personal slight. 2 years later, when Prince Harry was born, history repeated itself. Once again, Diana did not choose Anne as a godmother. Lady Susan Hussey, a close confidant of the Queen, later revealed how deeply Anne was hurt by this. To Anne, it wasn't just about being left out. It felt like Diana was rejecting everything she stood for: duty, tradition, and the royal way of life. The tension between them came to a head on the day of Harry's baptism. Instead of attending the ceremony, Anne chose to go on a hunting trip at her country estate. Her message was clear: if Diana could break with tradition, so could she. From that moment on, the distance between the two princesses only grew. Paths diverge: Anne's commitment, Diana's independence. As Anne threw herself even further into her royal duties, Diana, on the other hand, began to carve out her own voice. Though their relationship remained civil at family gatherings, the divide between them deepened. Both women wanted to be true to themselves in a world that expected them to be seen but not heard, but they took vastly different approaches to it. While the public saw their rivalry play out in headlines and royal engagements, behind the palace walls, there was far more to the story. Diana, in particular, had struggled to find her place in the royal world. In another reality, where their paths had aligned differently, they might have been allies. But how did Anne's disregard for Diana's influence shape the woman the world would later admire? Let's explore further. Diana's fight for recognition, the princess who wanted to belong. Before she became the beloved people's princess, and long before the heartbreak that would follow, Diana Spencer was just a 19-year-old woman stepping into a world filled with centuries-old traditions and unspoken rules. In the summer of 1981, just weeks before her wedding to Prince Charles, Diana entered Buckingham Palace, a young woman trying to understand the rigid protocols that governed royal life. Determined to fit in, she spent countless hours rehearsing royal etiquette, perfecting her curtsy, learning the correct way to address people, and memorizing the protocols she needed to follow. She wanted nothing more than to be accepted, to feel like she belonged. But despite all her efforts, not everyone embraced her warmly. At formal dinners, Diana would engage in polite conversation, using the carefully rehearsed words she had practiced. Yet Princess Anne, Charles's sister, barely responded, offering only short nods and keeping her focus firmly on her plate. Diana found Anne's indifference particularly painful. It wasn't just criticism, it was a cold silence, one that stung far more deeply. Diana's struggles, a silent heartache. Lady Elizabeth Anson, the Queen's cousin, once observed how Diana had a unique ability to light up a room. But when she was near Anne, it was as if that warmth began to fade, like a flower closing up in the cold. The contrast was impossible to miss. As time passed, the palace staff began to notice a shift in Diana. The once vibrant and carefree young woman grew increasingly anxious before royal events, meticulously reviewing the rules over and over, desperate to avoid making any mistakes. But no matter how hard she tried, Anne remained distant, her icy silence only deepening Diana's sense of isolation. One particularly painful moment came in 1982 when former royal chef Darren McGrady found Diana alone in the palace kitchen, silently crying. She whispered that she didn't understand what she had done wrong. Her vulnerability, left unaddressed, revealed a deep emotional struggle. As Diana's marriage to Prince Charles began to crumble, so did her sense of security within the palace. The very walls that had witnessed centuries of royal history now felt like a suffocating prison. She battled an eating disorder in silence, and when she reached out for help, she was met with cold indifference. Royal correspondent Richard Kay once remarked that the palace itself seemed to reflect its emotional climate: long, empty corridors, closed doors, and an unspoken rule that personal struggles should never be aired. Vulnerability was seen as a weakness, the stark contrast. Anne's stoicism versus Diana's openness. Princess. Anne's response to Diana's struggles spoke volumes. When Diana missed events due to her battle with bulimia, Anne reportedly said that illness should never interfere with duty. This starkly highlighted the difference in their approaches to royal life. Anne adhered to a stoic tradition, staying strong and never complaining. Diana, however, was open about her emotions, unafraid to show her pain. By 1990, Diana had learned to adapt, finding comfort in the company of junior staff and carving out small spaces where she could be herself. She even began using the royal rules to protect herself when necessary. But this came at a cost. Diana later confided in close friends that in her quest to fit in, she had lost parts of herself. Her cousin, Sarah Spencer, revealed that Diana kept a diary during these early years, one that contained heartbreaking reflections. In its pages, Diana wrote about feeling like an actress in a play, where everyone else knew the script, except her. A final attempt. Diana's letter to Anne. Despite the distance between them, Diana never viewed Anne as an enemy. Instead, she saw her as someone who could have guided her through the daunting royal world. For years, these untold stories and feelings remained hidden within the palace walls. Now, a newly discovered letter from Diana to Anne sheds light on her final attempt to bridge that gap. In those final months, Diana tried once more to reach out to Anne in a way no one could have predicted. And as the years passed, with Diana's sons forging their own paths, the palace walls could no longer keep her struggles locked away. Diana's prophetic predictions, a royal future. Unfolded by 2024, Prince William and Prince Harry were living their lives in ways that Diana had predicted. Her foresight, once dismissed by many, now seems eerily accurate. Royal watchers and historians are astonished by how precisely Diana foresaw the paths her sons would take, especially in the face of mounting royal pressure. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence comes from a letter Diana wrote to Princess Anne in the final months of 1997. This letter doesn't read like a desperate warning, but rather like a carefully crafted roadmap for the future, one that has now unfolded exactly as Diana had imagined. Margaret Wells, a former staff member who worked closely with both Diana and Anne, revealed a fascinating detail. She mentioned that Anne still keeps an old copy of the Times from August 1997 in her study at Gatcombe Park. The headline reads, "Diana calls for royal change." At the time, many people dismissed Diana's words as an overreaction, but history has proven her right. Diana's unseen vision, a legacy of change. Looking back, it's clear that Diana saw things others couldn't, a future where the monarchy would evolve, adapting to the modern world while still holding on to its royal traditions. Prince William, who is set to be king one day, has found a remarkable balance. He honors the royal legacy while embracing change, just as his mother envisioned. Much like Diana, William married someone outside of the aristocracy, Catherine Middleton, a commoner who has seamlessly fit into royal life. Their approach to raising children also reflects Diana's vision. Their kids attend regular schools, enjoy everyday activities, and express affection openly, shattering the stiff, formal royal image. Even a future king, it seems, can feel nervous about the first day of school. A moment Diana always hoped would be normal for her sons. Graham Sterling, a former royal protection officer, recalls how Princess Anne quietly influenced William after Diana's passing. Anne never publicly declared her opinions, but within the palace, it was known that she defended William's more modern approach to royal duties in private family discussions. But William's path is only one side of the story. Harry's dramatic break, Diana's prophetic insight. Harry's journey, on the other hand, has been drastically different. In 2020, he shocked the monarchy and the world by stepping away from royal life with Meghan Markle, seeking personal freedom over royal duty. Yet Diana had already anticipated this moment in her secret letter to Princess Anne. She wrote about the immense pressures of being a royal and predicted that one of her sons might eventually choose personal freedom, a foresight that seems almost uncanny today. Dr. Eleanor Bradford, a royal historian, explains that while many family members openly criticized Harry's decision, Princess Anne remained silent, refusing to offer either support or condemnation. This measured response was exactly what Diana had suggested in her letter, a quiet understanding without fanfare. The changing face of the monarchy, Diana's legacy lives on. Diana also predicted that the monarchy would face irrelevance if it didn't evolve with the times. Recent events seem to confirm her concerns. As the world changes, the rigid traditions of the past don't always align with modern expectations. Many within the palace have acknowledged this shift, and they are beginning to adapt. What's even more intriguing is how Princess Anne herself has subtly shifted since Diana's passing. While she remains dedicated and serious in her royal duties, Anne has played a key role in streamlining the monarchy, reducing the number of active royals, and giving the younger generation more freedom, changes that echo Diana's long-held hopes. A hidden letter, a timeless legacy. So what do you think about Diana's secret letter to Anne? A heartfelt plea or a prophetic vision of the monarchy's future? How much of Diana's wisdom have we truly understood? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the royals and their untold history.